Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Dead Space 2, Zealot difficulty, no upgrades, no damage, and no shop. So this is Chapter 4, and on this level you have the first incident of a difficult spawn. So everything up to this point has been warm-up and been practice for getting your aim on par, understanding how to use stasis and kinesis effectively, and exploiting the necromorphs slashing limbs against them. The spawn coming up in this next room is going to have, I think it's 3 infectors and 1 of these zealot slashers. And the checkpoint is from this save point, so you have to run back a decent distance, which is a little frustrating, but it's not too bad. Must be said, this game does have a couple of aged checkpoints, but they're not bad. They're just kind of, oh, interesting. If that was made today, that probably wouldn't be there kind of moments. But right here is my inexperience with throwing geometry at the slasher, because I could have killed him without shooting quite easily. Admittedly, I only used 1 shot, which is very efficient, and if you watch a lot of walkthroughs for this game on YouTube, you'll see people being incredibly wasteful, myself included, as I come back here and do another save, so that I don't have to kill him again. But the game is so immaculately designed that not only is this run that I'm doing right now doable, but it's actually viable. Like, I didn't realise just how well the game worked. I thought with an unupgraded plasma cutter, I'd be shooting enemies a ton to dismember limbs, but the standard necromorph limbs come off in 1 to 2 hits, and it's usually 1 if you hit it right. The black guys take 2 to 3 hits to break their limbs, but a lot of the times they come in situations where you can use other guys against them, so oftentimes you don't have to even shoot them as much. But the black ones are kind of what I expected the game to be like, and I'm glad it's not, because it just feels really well designed. So here is our first infector. He's going to immediately start on that dude, and if you stasis him you can stop it. The second one is going to be to our right here, and he's immediately getting a guy as well. Stasis him, and then start shooting him in his tongue. And then when you do this, 1 slasher will spawn, and an infector will spawn behind you. There's the slasher, kill him quickly, and then to his right, there will be the final infector. If you can kill him before he spawns anything, you'll be all good. But he managed to spawn the enemy, and I should be grabbing the slasher's limbs and throwing them to kill it to save ammo. But I know that infector is quite quick and he has a stick up his bottom against me, and because I don't know if he was trying to get to the other body in the room, but he moves towards you at quite the pace, and the way to stop him doing that is to shoot him. So I could have grabbed the slasher's wrist and fired it at him and killed him like that, and it would have been better, but there's always the opportunity that he runs up to me and clobbers me. And it's the same thing that happens with the stalkers that don't have any legs. The stalkers with no legs are really fast moving, but their attack has a massive flaw in it because they have to stop and wait and telegraph an attack. And you can backstep with Isaac's crappy movement out of the range of it, stamp on them, and then backstep again, and you can loop them. So the torsos of the stalkers can be killed with the stomp without using stasis and without using any ammunition, and it's the most effective way of killing them. The only problem that arises is that a lot of the times when you have enemies like that, you have enemies with them, so you don't have the flexibility or opportunity to do it. But there's going to be a pretty interesting fight coming up where I kill all the enemies quite decisively, and then I get chased by a fucking torso, and I'm running away from it to try and find something to throw at it so I can take it out. And then I can't find anything, or I think I find something and I miss, because throwing kinesis items at the stalkers is a pain in the dick. This is me saving after the fight, guys, because that fight was pretty tricky. I didn't want to do it again. Even though I've got the spawn down quite well, but it's one of those things where I like to tick things off. You know, when you do something, tick it's done, we can move on and just compartmentalise like that. So saving is always a good idea, just in case the checkpoint's not favourable. But I miss him with something, and then I end up just killing him with the stomp, and that's when I discovered the strategy works really well. But this room here has got a little bit of a puzzle. There's a couple of items to pick up, so make sure you grab them. There's a couple of plasma cutter bolts. Grab the battery, stick it in there, open this door, trigger the necromorphs, then back up to the doorway and shoot the window. If you're too close to the window, it will pull you in, and you'll have to shoot again. But if you're close enough to this room to get inside it, you will not be affected by the suction. And then all you have to do is wait for the station to seal the window, and then you can go and stasis the door. Fun fact, this door killed me, which I was really annoyed at. because I used the stasis at a bad time, and then I waited for the stasis to regen so I could get more back, and then I was running into the door, and the door came down on me and killed me. So there you go. Can you imagine if that was a hardcore run? You'd be pissed off, right? I think that's the reason why hardcore is so bad in this game. It's not because it's difficult, it's because there's so many instances where you touch stuff and you die, and I just don't think that should ever be in a game where a permadeath difficulty is present. Unskippable cutscenes, load times, and instant deaths are not things you want with your permadeath. It just doesn't work. It really doesn't. Like, a game that can be done incredibly quickly is a game that permadeath is suited for. Like, you know what games I think are suited for permadeath? Souls games. Because if you're good enough, you can do them in like an hour. And if you're doing permadeath, you're probably good enough, so you can do them in about 2 hours, right? But here's a cutscene of Nicole doing what she does best, which is turning up randomly and being unskippable. And there's a note on the table, there's some credits on there. I really like the domestic environments in Dead Space 2. I love the idea of moving through this kind of colony where they have their churches, they have their, their shopping centres, their industrial centres and things. I love all of that. And I wish that Dead Space 3 had more of that, instead of just going to the ice planet and then it being, generic scientist land. Like, the first game worked because it did the feature, didn't it? It did the Die Hard thing, the Nostromo thing, where you were set on one location, and the location was so omnipresent all the time that it was almost a creature in and of itself. It became its own character, the Ishimura. But whereas this game, there's so much diversity in the environments. The first game almost feels like some kind of, Lovecraftian hallucination where everything is warping reality as you gradually go insane, and you're probably in just like a nice normal vessel, but everything's been twisted by your perceptions because of, good old Shaggoth is sitting over there on the horizon affecting your brain. Whereas this game, you just feel like something really bad happened in this sprawling location, and you're just coming in on the aftermath of it. Which, it would be nice if we saw the outbreak happen a bit more, because I love that idea. It was one of the criticisms I had of Bioshock, when you get to I think it's called Apollo Square, where everyone's deserted and it's just empty flats, and there's missing pictures everywhere, but there's no people, and you never see people. And I always thought that section would be so much more impressive when you get to that point, because you've been essentially isolated the entire game. If you got to Apollo Square and it was crowds of people running away from like fucking psycho splicers, it would have been so interesting. And it could have been like the beginning of Tatooine on Battlefront 2, where all the residents of the city just kind of run away and vanish. But it's cool to see that stuff. And when you don't see it, it gives the impression that the world is dead. So I would have loved to have seen, like at the beginning of this game, where all the people are being attacked and you're running through it. That was a super cool section, right? But it never happens again. There's no other moment where you move through an environment and there's a bunch of pre-scripted deaths of everything happening. That would be so interesting to me. I think they could have definitely made that work. But we have the Stalkers, and right there is a problem with the Stalkers. Did you see that? For some reason, when you fire objects at these fellas, they miss. And it's probably my aim. It's probably I didn't aim correctly. I didn't do the right thing. But my takeaway from fighting these enemies is that if you're going to fire shit at them, fire it at their head. It's a guaranteed hit, and you don't have to mess around with missing and then getting killed. But I have a really good strategy against this enemy that I'm going to showcase at the end of the game when I really had to save my ammo, and it involves using a body. I'm not sure if you can use a stalker body, but you might be able to, but you can definitely use a standard body. And the strategy is wait for them to charge at you, and then throw the body at them. It knocks them down, shoot their arm, and then pick the body back up. And you're going to keep doing that until you sever a hand. When you sever a hand, you want to fire the hand into one of the stalkers that baits you. You do not want to fire it at him when he's running unless you hit him in the face, because once again you'll miss and you'll die. And that's the strategy. You only use shots to break their hands. And if you do it correctly, I think it takes 2 plasma cutter shots on the standard stalker. So from there, you can get 2 claws off one of them, potentially kill another of them, and you will save a lot more ammunition than I just used then. And it's one of the effective strategies. I don't know if you can skip this fight. You probably can. But one of the things I noticed about the Stalkers is that they're really good at intercepting you if you try to skip them. They have especially if there's a hacking room, yeah, there's no way you can skip this. Unless you're a crazy speedrunner. Because anything that you have to do this with is a pain in the dick, and I'll never understand the game for giving you 3 hacks in the room with the regenerator. I always felt like that door should have had 2 hacks, because I feel like 3 is excessive. And you might be wondering, how was that room, Chris? I'm terrified of that room, I can't imagine it. It wasn't too bad, but you cannot do it without shooting him. I tried my damnedest to throw shit at him to knock him over, then freeze him, and then try and hack the room. And there would be one easy way of making that room better, in my opinion. 2 hacks would be the best option, in my opinion, instead of 3. But another one would be if it saved your progress. You pull the panel off, you do 1 hack, you stop doing it, you knock the dude over, you stasis him, and then you finish up and do the second hack. If it saved your status, I think it'd be way more strategic and way more fun. But you know what they want to do. The entire point of that room is to have you shit in your pants. And that's what it's about, the tension of doing that while he's coming to get you. And at that point, you have so much ammunition and so many crazy weapons that you just blow every limb off him, stasis him, and he's not a problem. And in the end, that's what you have to do. You have to make sure he can't crawl, and you have to make sure he regenerates his limbs, and make sure he's in stasis, and then you can open the door. But to do that it's 3 shots for each body part. So you're wasting 12 bloody rounds just to put him down. And 12 rounds at the end of the game is a lot. I got to the final boss with 16 shots. Can you imagine that? 16 shots? Terrifying, right? But just moving back through the area into the reading room, just double checking that there's nothing that's repopulated. One of the things you'll find when you play this game, if you're not too familiar with it, is that the audio is very deceptive. The audio is designed to scare you, and it's designed to give you false information, and it's a pain in the dick. Speaking of a pain in the dick, right now, my game is having problems. Did you see that? The good news is you didn't miss much. All you missed is me grabbing the body and then throwing it to kind of stop those little scrubbers that are on these enemies. Because this enemy is the worst enemy in the game. It shouldn't exist. It shouldn't do damage. There should be something that you can do. Like, when you get close to that enemy, you should be able to press E and boot it. Like, and the game stuttered a little bit again. So if you're wondering what's happening there, it's my recording. OBS, for some reason, on recording sessions, every so often it has a couple of stuttering issues. I don't know why it does it. Sometimes it never does it, sometimes it does do it. It's one of those things that is very difficult to spot, it's very difficult to predict, and I don't know how to stop it doing it. I don't know why it does it, and if you know anything, guys, I would love to know. But as you can see, this particular recording is suffering, and it's a little bit frustrating too, because it never does it in moments when we're in elevators, or moments when it's unskippable cutscenes. It only seems to do it during quite important moments. And one of the ways that I've kind of got away from having this be a problem for the full run is I was recording in 8-minute segments, because that's about how long it took me to get from one save point to the next. And because they were only shorter videos, you generally stand more of a chance of them not having any kind of problem. But it could be my old CPU spiking or my physical memory having problems, because I need to upgrade both of them. Because everything else was fine. Like, my game had no problems with performance, it was running perfectly. OBS didn't look like it was having any problems. I didn't get any indicator that problems were happening, but there it is. And it feels really unprofessional to have that in the guide, but I don't really want to re-record 4 seconds of footage as I carry a body, because it seems a bit excessive. So I'm just going to apologise, it happens, and hope it doesn't happen again. Thank you for watching, you take care now.